Yes, good morning. Welcome to your daily dose of SirToshi's news. Today's day is Saturday the 9th of September 2023, the year of BSV. Buy BSV.live, the best place to buy Bitcoin SV online, the original protocol and genuine Bitcoin. Just gonna have a little bit of fun today. Here's me receiving my 15 minutes of fame as I was interviewed by Gareth Icke on Ickonic.com, which is Ickonic TV. Here we go. Let's get into it.
By a whistleblower who wished to remain anonymous. He goes by the name SirToshi on Rumble. Now, there's a huge background to the global conspiracy for us to cover, and that's sort of impossible in the time we've got. But Toshi does go through that on his Rumble channel. Having said that, I think most people watching this have some understanding that there's a conspiracy at play. And the biggest thing that we kind of struggle with is how we can defeat it. What solutions do we have? I'd like to welcome SirToshi onto the show, and hopefully he can offer us some answers to that. First of all, what is your background and what made you start to research this conspiracy and solutions of how to get out of it?
It was really just the money side of things that made me realize that it was something very, very wrong. Because obviously we've got the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, where all the currencies were backed by the US dollar. And the US dollar was meant to be backed by gold. But then the Nixon shock, 15th of August, 1971, removed the US dollar from the gold standard. And the moment that happened, suddenly you've got a currency which is not competitive to any currencies, because all the currencies are backed by it, which gave a certain group of people an unbelievable amount of economic power. And it means that they can be as economically irresponsible and as reckless as they like, because their currency is now no longer competitive with any other currencies. So their central bank can be as irresponsible as they want without any economic penalties or consequences. And so all you need is a nefarious entity with that amount of economic power. And you've got the perfect combination of potentially a totalitarian one world government, which is what I'm desperately trying to prevent.
Of course. I mean, in terms of banking, this banking crash, it feels imminent, doesn't it? What do you believe is coming over the hill in the next, say 6 to 9 months?
Well, I would say anything that does happen over the next 6 to 9 months, it's all orchestrated. It's all planned. It can't not be, because they're the ones who literally create by printing the payment mechanism that we use that gives market prices. Because something is only worth what somebody else is willing to give in exchange for it. So a house is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. Gold is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. If you've got nothing to pay for these goods and services, then prices go up and down. So the Great Depression, for example, the central bank just simply reduced the amount of currency in circulation by a third. And people are wondering, why was the Great Depression so bad? They manufactured it. So I would say, everything that they do, they buy pumping and dumping markets. They would basically inflate the price of investments, for example, and they would get everybody else to invest in it because they want to. They don't want to miss out on any lucrative investments. But then all they'll do is they'll get out of the market before everybody else does. The bubble bursts, and then suddenly things crash because people need liquidity in order to buy goods and services. And then they just go in and scoop everything up. So that's just simply what's going to happen again, unless we have an alternative medium of exchange, which is what I'm desperate to educate people on.
What would you say that was then? Because I was going to ask you the next question is how can you avoid getting taken out by something like this? Because it's all well and good, obviously, knowing it's coming. I think most people know that a crash is coming, but it's knowing how to not lose your house and lose your car and be able to feed your family and stuff. That's the bit people really struggle with, I think.
So all we need is an asset-backed money. And so just to give you a quick basic economics 101, there are only 4 things that circulate within an economy. You've got goods that are manufactured, services that are provided. You've got securities that are certified secured entitlement. So in other words, they're just simply printed, and then a higher authority will then grant you your entitlement to whatever it is that you want. So share ownership, proof of purchase of land or something like that. And then you've got commodities. And commodities are just simply common to everyone. So in the same way that you have the common good amongst the people, you've got common sense in knowledge, you've got common law in society, and you've got commodity in economics. That's it. So if we go back to actually using a commodity money rather than a securitized currency, which is what we're using, that doesn't have any money backing it, then suddenly we start using an asset. Well, we have a monetary system that is effectively an asset-based monetary system. And if we're using an asset as a medium of exchange, it means that it's increasing in value. So one of the things I'm desperately trying to educate on is the fact that one of the reasons that this lot, whatever you want to call them, the New World Order, have been ramping things up so quickly is because they thought that initially nothing could stop them. But the Bitcoin white paper was released on the 31st of October 2008, and for the first time in history expressed how to commoditize data. But part of the commoditization process means that the network had to grow organically without any central point of authority or control, which is why the creator of the network used a pseudonym. Because there was a time period, well, he measured it of about 10 years, where the network just had to go through this process of commoditization in order to give it economic value. So it didn't have any central point of authority or control, meaning the central starting point was diluted. Now, the New World Order figured out, as did we, that the moment this chap was able to identify himself, which would have been on the 1st of January 2020, he would have removed all speculation from the market by proving who he was. So anything that they were going to do, they had to do before the 1st of January 2020. And so if you make a change to the Bitcoin protocol, because it's a commodity protocol where people are accountable to one another rather than a centralized entity, if something fundamental change, if something fundamentally changes in the protocol, you yourself will notice it. You will see a change in the legacy Bitcoin address. Now, all genuine Bitcoin legacy addresses start with the number 1. So if you look at the very first Bitcoin transaction to Hal Finney, it came from a legacy address with the number 1. If you look at the Bitcoin Pizza Day transaction on the 22nd of May 2010, Laszlo Hanyek, it all came from a legacy address starting with the number 1. Now, where the New World Order fundamentally changed aspects of the protocol, it was reflected in a change in the legacy address. And now all basically fake Bitcoin legacy addresses, Segwit addresses, for example, which BTC has now got the ticker symbol of, they all start with either the letters BC or the number 3. But unless you're sending and receiving data, Bitcoin, with a legacy address that starts with the number 1, it is fake, it's a security, and it's economically worthless. And the moment that this chap, Satoshi Nakamoto, comes out and proves who he is, and the court case is set for the 15th of January next year. It is literally the largest and biggest court case in the history of our species. It's huge, so keep an eye out for that.
So these people that have this Bitcoin, 'cause I know a lot of people have invested in Bitcoin, so these people that have these cryptocurrencies that don't start with the letter 1 then, I mean, a lot of these are people's, well, they feel like their insurance policy if it all goes Pete Tong. Like, have these people been duped then?
Oh, massively. It's the biggest
Wow.
fraud. It's the biggest fraud in financial history. Like, if you look at the BTC, so again, BTC was corrupted on the 24th of August 2017 when they implemented Segwit. Now, seg means segregated, so they've separated the witness data, which is the signature, which proves it's you. So if you upload a song, a movie, a podcast, a book, or anything like that, it's got your digital signature on it, so you can prove it's yours. If you remove that digital signature, you can't tell it's yours. So if you're using it as a medium of exchange, and let's say you don't get the good or service in return, or the person that you're trading with actually runs off with your money, you need to go to an independent third party, if you wish, and say, look, I prove that I've made this payment. The first thing a third party is going to do, like a judge, is say, can you prove you made this payment to this individual? And your signature would have to be on it. Without a signature on that transfer, you can't prove shit, unfortunately. And that's what the New World Order have done to BTC. What they did is they effectively changed the protocol, but they had to engineer control of the ticker symbol. Otherwise, their fraud wouldn't have worked. But if you look at the size of the market of BTC in comparison to Tulip Mania, in comparison to the South Sea Company bubble, in comparison to the .com bubble, they are dwarfed in comparison. The BTC bubble is by far the biggest fraud in financial history. It is massive.
This is insane. If this is the case, mate, like there are so many people that are going to get taken down by this, and it's.
This is why I'm desperate. This is why I'm trying to save people.
It's almost, not entirely, but massively focused on people that apparently alternative and are trying to fight back against the system as well. That's not an accident, is it?
Oh, yeah, it's purposely manufactured because if you think about this, the New World Order thought, right, well, first of all, we've got all the gold. And also now we've got the central banking system and the central banking system is digital. You're not really going to find anything, better than that. They never, ever thought in their wildest dreams that somebody would come up with a way to actually commoditize digital data. In other words, to actually give data economic value. And if you can give data economic value, well, that means you can send value as fast and as efficient as light. And so they realized, they were like, hold on a minute, our entire financial system, this central banking system that we've created, is purposely toxic because it only benefits those who can print the currency for themselves. So every time they print more, that's effectively counterfeiting. They're giving it to themselves, which means you're just simply increasing the divide between rich and poor. So, and the more you inflate something, the less valuable it becomes. So the entire economy is toxic. Whereas if you start using a monetary system that is effectively sort of asset based, then it helps everybody out because you're using an asset that's increasing in value for absolutely everybody. And when you're using a monetary system that benefits everybody, it means that small businesses can then survive and thrive. Because if you're using a monetary system that's going down in value, unless you can either increase your prices in line with inflation or reduce your overheads in line with inflation, you're constantly fighting an uphill battle to stay profitable and in business. So if you're actually using an asset as a medium of exchange that's increasing in value, it means that small businesses can then survive and thrive. And and again, if we have no choice, we have no freedom. And that's what they're trying to take away from us. They're trying to take away freedom. They're trying to shut down small businesses, which is why they needed a toxic medium of exchange rather than an asset one.
Exactly. This is so interesting, mate. So what your Rumble channel, SirToshi, so people can obviously get a lot more background on you there. But it would be great if you'd be willing, because we don't have time on this show, where the setup of this show is shorter interviews with varied guests. It would be great to get you on Classified, because we're literally just scraping the surface here, mate. I think our members would find it very, very interesting.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, we've literally got all those truthers who actually understand there is a problem. Like we've got 6 months before this court case. This court case is massive. Literally, like it's the biggest court case in the history of our species because the outcome will literally depend on, we'll have huge ramifications for our future. We're either heading to a centralized world of which this lot are going to control it and basically herd us into pens and get us, vaccinated, every few months, which we're not really going to last very long with, being injected with synthetics, or we actually start moving into a medium of exchange, which gives us all sovereignty and independence, where small businesses can start to survive and thrive. And that's really what we need. So it's huge, and everybody needs to get behind this and support the genuine Bitcoin and the original protocol that has the ticker symbol BSV.
Magic. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. And like